Hello, everyone. Welcome to the dance floor. I'm Soulbag Greg, and today we're going to be checking out a creator who I've been wanting to react to their videos for quite a while, just haven't had a chance to do it yet. But we're going to be checking out Mechfrog, right? I said it right? Mechfrog? Mechfrog, Mechanical Frog, aka Mechfrog. Mechfrog has been doing a lot of videos involving Battletech, specifically talking about mechs from that franchise, and he's covered a lot of mechs. So I decided, hey, you know what? For our first video, let's check out a mech that is very personal to me, one that I've had a very special bond with ever since I had a chance to pilot one in Mechwarrior 2, and one that unfortunately has been revised to where its uniqueness, unfortunately, has been erased from the tabletop. I'm kind of frustrated about it, actually. Uh, and yeah, definitely check out Mechanical Frog's channel. His the his current place of residence, unfortunately, is going through a terrible fire event. So unfortunately, he's not able to do work right now. So definitely check out his channel, give him love and support. I'm sure he'll appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing him return to continue doing what he loves and supplying us with all the great knowledge from Battletech. So, without further ado, let's check out one of my favorite unique mechs that unfortunately recently got revised, probably to make it easier for people to pilot in Mechwarrior Online, and that would be the Nova, aka the Blackhawk. Okay, now you see that right there? This right here is the new version of the Nova. Also, there's the mini for it, which the mini does look pretty cool. I mean, the mech itself does look still pretty cool. However, the the thing that I really loved about the original design, which isn't on here. Let me see. Actually, can I bring it up here? Let me see if I can. Give me a second here. Oh, there goes the there goes the screen. Sorry, just give me a moment here. Beep 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 beep. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Okay. All right. Bring the screen back up here. Okay. This was the original design of the Nova. See, it looks very similar to the new design of the Nova, but as you can see, the Nova's uniqueness, its quirk, as it were, is the fact that its torso is directly connected to its leg joint and arm joint, all in like one giant bar across. And the quirk about this thing is that it made it very low profile. It was very fast, but the problem is it could not torso twist. It didn't have the ability to torso twist. In MechWarrior 2, you had like maybe a 5 to 10% torso twist angle, whereas all other mechs had a like a 180-degree torso twist angle. So you literally had to fight just by piloting this thing to the left and to the right. You couldn't use torso twisting. It was a strange quirk that I thought it was actually endearing. Um, as you can see here with the redesign, they gave it a waist. So now this thing has the ability to torso twist. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Why'd they do that? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This was redesigned when MechWarrior Online uh, was starting. And so my guess is they did that so that way this thing could be piloted with ease in that game. If that wasn't the reason why this got revised, please let me know in the comments. But I think that's what happened. They decided to make this thing, uh, give it the ability to torso twist, so that way it wouldn't throw people off that tried piloting it in Mechwarrior Online. Um, and unfortunately, like this was something I really love. I love the look and design and just the quirkiness of this thing. It's been completely written out of the newer rules. I think what was it? The BattleTech. Um, I'm not which one was it. It was I'm not sure which one of the books for the BattleTech core rule books, for like the book series, which one it was. But recently, I think it was probably back in 2024. I think they had an errata that unfortunately erased the quirk from the book, and so yeah, there used to be a quirk in the book where you couldn't, like, your suit was not designed, your mech was not designed for torso twisting. Not a lot of mechs, to my knowledge, had that. The Nova did, and that's why I liked it. I thought it was super unique. But unfortunately, they have removed it from canon, and now I am sad. But anyways, let's keep checking out this cool mech. Yeah, see, there's a that's more of a classic design right there. See, it still looks cool. It just, yeah, there we are. See, it's still a cool looking design. Just in a way, it feels like a squashier Stormcrow, and it's just weird to me.
Terror Rorschach turned his mech, a rare Nova, one of two presently on Ironhold, and fired a cluster of LRMs from the right arm rack that replaced the mech's usual medium lasers. The long-range missiles would surprise the Executioner because a Nova was not usually equipped with them. The missile's flight was true, their arc high to make up for the relatively short distance, and the missiles coming in at an odd angle that apparently the Executioner pilot did not detect in time. The other mech was already reeling from the concentrated attack by Joanna's left arm laser, whose large pulses were making an asymmetric tattoo on its chest.
Yeah, that was from Robert Thurlson.
For years, I taught students that the foundation of
I think that was from his, that was Blood Name. I think that was part of the Jade Phoenix trilogy of books, which I have the it's like a small omnibus book that combines all three books together. What I didn't know when I bought it at the time is that I think that was actually that series of books was actually the very first books that introduced the concept of the clans to the BattleTech universe, which was in like the early 90s. So pretty cool.
Persuasive essay is a compelling thesis statement. After racking my brain for a while, I think I have the perfect thesis for this video on the Nova. It may lack the artistic flair of Henry David Thoreau and the rhetorical bite of Cicero, but I do the best with the brain I have. Here we go. The Nova demonstrates...
Hey, 1 second. Our frog buddy here is actually speaking. I'm covering him up, so let me move myself. There we go. Yeah, that's better. Okay.
That Clan House Horses isn't entirely a nonsense clan. The script here says I should add a dramatic pause to let that sink in. The story of the Nova, the well-known clan invasion era 50-ton clan Omnimech, begins on a planet named Tokasha, deep in the clan homeworlds.
Okay.
The first to settle this marginally inhabitable world were colonists from Clan Mongoose, who set down foundations in 2840.
Clan Mongoose, that's not a clan I hear much about.
Atmosphere which promoted the growth of native and non-native flora and fauna, but it was actually poisonous to humans in all but the highest of altitudes.
Oh boy.
Excessive oxygen consumption causes hyperoxia, which has symptoms including but not limited to lung cell damage, neurological issues, and retinal detachment.
Yeah,
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's not great.
So while the planet could be
I like my
useful to
retinas
humans,
attached,
especially in those resource-rich valleys, any people sent down out of the mountains were sure to carry respirators. It wasn't long before the other clans learned of the available resources on Tokasha, and they came knocking.
Mm.
After a rough going and continued clashes with the Smoke Jaguars and Star Adders, Clan Mongoose's settlers were eventually booted completely off the planet by Clan Jade Falcon in 2851. In the
Oh.
decades that followed, various clans squabbled over territory among the mountain settlements and valley mining operations. One of the major players in that constantly shifting game of resource allocation was Clan Hell's Horses.
Hell's Horses, yeah.
When Clan Coyote's Omnimech technology hit the scene, there was a mad rush by all the other clans to procure it and make their own modular battle mechs. Clan Hell's Horses stood in an advantageous position as they were able to obtain the Omnimech technology and already had played a crucial role in the research and production of their first battle armor.
Yeah, so if you don't know, hey, is the Bladestorm, good to see you, dude. So if you don't know what an Omni-Mech is compared to Battle Mechs are the giant mech walkers that the Inner Sphere uses. And to some extent, the clans used until they started creating Omni-Mech technology. Battle Mechs, while they're amazing, have limitations. A lot of their different hull designs are designed around specific hull points and hard points that allow for mounting of certain types of weapons and equipment. Um, you may have a battle mech with different designations. One's designated to hold more laser types. Another one may be designed to have hard points designed for like cannons, like auto cannons and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot you can uh, customize. Like you have to stay within its intended design of energy points and missile points and like ballistic type of weapon mounts and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of different variants you can get for battle mechs in the Inner Sphere. Omni technology, on the other hand, basically makes the battle mech an open like equipment platform. So it's all modular. So you can literally slide out weapons, weapon pods that are of a completely different um that have a completely different purpose. Let's say like you have let's say you have like an AC 10 mount. Well, I want a PPC. Okay, well in Omni technology, you can they're designed to where you can literally slide one out, slide the other in, lock it in, and you're good to go. So you can literally put anything together with an Omnimech. Omnimechs also have the advantage of having like mounts, like handhold mounts for what Mr. Frog over here, Mr. Mechanical Frog, is in. He's in an elemental suit. These are basically heavily armored infantry um, that you don't want to mess with if you're just a regular infantryman. These guys are scary. Heck, these guys are scary in groups against mechs because mechs are already big, scary, stompy mech, robots, giant walkers. Now you got a bunch of crazy, you know, a bunch of crazy little guys in suits literally trying to tear you out of your cockpit. That's terrifying. So an Omni-Mech actually has places where these little mecha guys can mount onto and basically get like a free ride. Because even though they have like jump jets and stuff like that, they're not going anywhere fast. They'll just hitch a ride on a fast Omni-Mech and then depart and go on the offensive when needed.
The combination of these technologies would have a big impact on later history. When looking for a location to produce their new Omnimech, Tokasha was a good candidate as it was close to several key resources necessary for the process, which was shorten logistics lines. While the Science cast members worked on their design for the new Omnimech, the foundation for the Tokasha Mechworks was poured. By 2921, the Alpha facility would be Clan Hell's Horse's largest mech production line. It produced more than a half dozen different mech designs and the components used in more than a dozen others. Long before that, however, it all started with Nova.
Nova!
By the time the 50-ton Omnimech's design was finalized, its mission was to be an extremely capable jack-of-all-trades battle mech, which could be tailored to a wide variety of battlefield
Artist
roles.
Papa Chicken.
Its Star League XTA frame and
Hey.
250XL model SF2 Fusion.
Oh yeah, that's the one I use right there. Hey, Noel, good to see you. Yeah, starting early today. Got D&D later tonight, so I got the day off. So I figured I'd do some fun reactions before doing some D&D later. So yeah, the Nova Prime here. This is my baby. This is what I loved using in MechWarrior 2. And I don't know if it was because maybe there is a silly exploit in the way heat handles in MechWarrior 2, but basically what I would do is I would run the Prime here, and the Prime is, as you can see, 12 ER medium lasers on the left arm and right arm. I used to spam those all together as like alpha strikes, just alpha striking constantly. That 12 ER medium lasers hitting the same spot a few times in a very short amount of time, you're gonna have a bad day real fast if you're the enemy. So I used to spam that a lot. I would jam my heat all the way up, way past the red bar to where you can't even see anymore. And in MechWarrior 2, when you typically do that, if you don't shut down, you can override in that game. I don't know if you can override in MechWarrior 5, but in MechWarrior 2, you can hit an override button and essentially like ride the line, so to speak. And I used to do that all the time. Basically, I would completely firewall the heat scale, right? I'd bring it all the way up to where it's way past red. I would hit the override button, and then because I wasn't piloting a Omni-Mech that had internal ammunition, which can explode. There's a chance of it exploding if you're running really hot, but I was running all energy. So I used to spam that thing like crazy, and I knew it would take about like 5 seconds after the announcement that it would need to shut down when you got it completely at red. You had roughly around 5 seconds to just shoot as much as you can. And then afterwards, right before the 5th second hits, you need to hit the O key on the keyboard to override the shutdown, and then just don't do anything else. Just don't shoot anymore. Give it several seconds, and then the heat comes way down, and then you can do that over and over and over again. I used to do it all the time with the Nova Prime. Uh, Good times, good memories. And this thing is fast too. Like this thing hauls ass. I think you can go like what 140 kilometers, 140 kilometers an hour in this bad boy. Like this thing is fast, and you have jump jets, especially with like I think they recently added it on MechWarrior 5, but on MechWarrior 2, jump jets you had omnidirectional jump jets in this game. So I know some people that prefer the faster mecha of like Armored Core and stuff tend to scoff at MechWarrior 5's, oh, it's so slow and lumbering. You know, it's like, oh yeah, well you're not using the jump jets from MechWarrior 2. You can jump up and go zipping around really fast using omnidirectional thrusting. And they haul ass in that game. Yeah, I think they may have finally added that to MechWarrior 5, although it's probably nowhere near uh as crazy fast as it was in MechWarrior 2. Although I'm kind of surprised the movement is showing as 585. You know what that means? 5 means that's how many movement points you get on the tabletop. 5 MP. 8 right there means that's how fast you can go at a running speed, and the other 5 is at jumping. So these got this Prime has jump jets, so you can jump up over certain things, you can jump out so far. So if you're going across clear hexes only require 1 movement point to get into a hex. If this is a rough terrain or if it's like light woods, then it takes 2. But I remember in the game, the Nova Prime hauls ass. Like it moves really fast. At least I'm pretty sure it does. I'm 99% sure it hauls ass in MechWarrior 2. Maybe that wasn't so. Maybe that's not tabletop lore accurate, but it's definitely the way it's portrayed in MechWarrior 2.
Engine were sturdy and allowed the mech to travel at up to 86 kilometers per hour. With its high cockpit, low slung arms, and shoulder height mounted legs, the Nova was unique among its other Omni-Mech peers. With 5 hard mounted
Yeah,
command
it's all
standard
good, Noel.
type A2 jump jets, the movement profile was set at 585 before any other supplemental pod equipment. It also was given 14 double heat sinks to hopefully tackle any heat issues. Though we will see with the primary configuration that more would be needed. So
Yeah,
many more.
yeah. This
The
thing
Nova
can
was
get
protected by 10
beat
tons
like
of standard
crazy.
forged type HH-30 armor plate,
But like I
which was
said,
just
I'm
1
pretty sure
ton
it was an
less than the
exploit. I was
max
exploiting in
possible.
MechWarrior 2's
For comparison, the
heat map.
Centurion 9A was protected by 8.5 tons of armor, and the Night Sky 4S carried 9.5. With gyro and cockpit factored in, this left 16 tons of pod space available for weapons and additional equipment. However, before we launch into the standard configurations, we do need to talk about one of my favorite features of the Nova and the other clan Omnimechs. The Hell's Horses, better than some of the other clans, understood that the future of warfare was with mixed arms. Designing the Nova in such a way that it could easily transport battle-armored infantry was of high importance. When the time came for Operation Revival, many Inner Sphere defenders saw their first Nova accompanied by a point of elementals, ready to leap from the mech on plumes, signifying impending doom.
Ah, interesting.
The primary configuration of the Nova is iconic, and one that most warriors, both clan and Inner Sphere, will think of when the mech is brought up.
Strength, utility, fun. I see your fun scale is not as high. Trust me, it's a lot higher for me in MechWarrior 2. Yeah, if you're seeing, if you're wondering what all these numbers here, if you only play like the video games, these are the armor points for each limb. In tabletop Battletech, when you're successfully attacked, a weapon will hit a certain location. Each weapon is rated to deal a certain amount of damage. So if you get hit in a location, like say an AC-10 strikes you in the arm, that arm has 16 armor points. So an AC-10 is going to take out 10 of those 16 armor points. Eventually, this thing will get the armor will get destroyed. You start hitting the internals. Afterwards, when that armor's completely gone, any additional damage that continues from this region will transfer over to the next inner point, which usually would be the side torso here, and then to the center torso. However, like I said earlier, the Nova is the really weird exception where the arm is connected to the leg joint. Yeah, it has its advantages being very small and squat, but once you take out a leg, it like kind of, I believe it also takes out the armor as well. A little rough. And then you have the rear armor points, which is a lot lower than the front armor. I prefer the Stormcrow over the Nova though, because that awful torso twisting. What do you mean, sir? There is no torso twisting for the Nova, and that's why I love it. It's so funny. We're going to the clan era though. Fast heavies like the Summoner with jump jets are fine too. Yeah. The Summoner was always kind of a weird mech for me. I've found some uses for certain versions of the Summoner. I've always preferred rolling in with the Timberwolf though.
Partially because its possible damage output, but mostly due to the astonishing heat issues it has even with the addition of 4 or more double heatsinks. The 18 double heatsinks look at the possible 60 heat generated by the 12 ER medium lasers split between the left and right arms and just put in the paperwork for an early retirement. In all seriousness, a full Alpha Strike left the Nova Prime at 24 heat at the standstill. But since there's no ammunition on the mech, really what it does is leave the mech with -4 movement points, a +4 modifier to fire the next turn, and possible shutdown avoidable on 8+. In a worst case scenario, when you really needed to make sure a target was dead right now, an Alpha Strike isn't the worst option. It's a risk, of course, but sometimes we just can't resist licking the raw cookie dough from the beater paddle.
That's what I do.
The Blackhawk's pilot targeted Harvison's Black Knight.
Alpha Strike,
All
not
6
Rock
of the
Torpedo.
extended range medium
Although it does
lasers
sound
built
pretty
into
good.
the mech's right wrist blazed away, but the shots went low, burning a line in the golden meadow 10 meters from the Comstar mech. One of the lasers in the other arm sent a shaft of ruby light stabbing at the Black Knight's head. The diagnostic icons in the corner of the view painted the mech's head red, but pilot status remained green. Harvison fired back with the particle projection cannon built into the Hawk's right arm, and the large laser mounted into its right chest. The large laser's green beam missed high, but the PPC's cobalt beam drilled straight into the center of the clan mech's torso. Half-melted armor plates dropped away, leaving a blackened scar on the Blackhawk's chest.
Prince of Havoc. I believe that's one of the
When the
novels from the
Nova
Twilight
first saw
Clans
battle, it
series
proved
of
to be
books,
quite effective against the astonished and inadequately
which takes
prepared
place
forces from
after
Clan
the
Fire Mandrill
Battle of
on the planet
Tukid
Foster, which
and the
is just
fallout
a
of
couple of
that
jumps
conflict.
from Takasha. The combination of medium mechs spewing laser bolts like a Pink Floyd light show down at the planetarium and leaping battle armor devastated the Fire Mandrills and proved the Hell's Horses were onto something with this Omnimech. Unlike some of the other Omnimax, which were
Hey, there's
jealously
the OG
guarded by
right
their
there.
creating clans, the Nova was sold, traded, or otherwise procured by most of the other clans over the coming decades. By the beginning of Operation Revival, the Nova could be found across the clan tumens. Unfortunately for both Clan Hell's Horses and the Nova, the Tokasha Mechworks ended up the target of Clan Ghost Bear's expansion plans.
Oh,
The production lines were named in a trial of possession in November of 2921, and the Khan of Hell's Horses, Aaron Cobb, was determined not to lose the vital industrial site.
ah,
When he bid an entire galaxy in defense of the Mechworks, it was a surprise to the Ghost Bears. The trial took place in the jungles and oxygen-rich atmosphere of Takasha, which added an additional threat to anyone who had to abandon their mech or vehicle without respiration gear.
oh,
The fighting was intense,
right.
and though the Hell's Horses did everything they could to drag the trial out with delaying tactics and ambushes, ultimately the Ghost Bears were able to push through the defensive lines and claim the Mechworks. It turned out to be a fateful day, not just for the Nova, which was no longer produced at the site under Clan Ghost Bear control, but also for Clan Hell's Horses, which had to completely rethink their tactical doctrine due to the loss of much of their battle mech production capability.
Mm,
Without new Nova production, the future of the mech was in doubt.
yeah.
On his flank, a Nova rose on its jump jets and landed at his same relative depth on the crater's slope. The Nova pilot must also have figured out that holding the high ground was the key. Trent toggled through the battle computer readout until he saw that the other mech was configured in its primary mode, mounting a dozen ER medium lasers and the heat sinks to help support them. Getting in too close was going to be the doom of him.
Yep, that was from that is from Exodus Road, which is actually the first book of the Twilight of the Clans saga. It was actually my very first book I ever purchased to read more about Battletech. Back when I learned that Battletech and Mechwarrior were the same thing. Mechwarriors are just mech pilots in the Battletech universe. I always thought they were different. You know, but I'd see the covers of Battletech and I'd be like, is that just like a ripoff of Mechwarrior? Why the mechs look weird like that? That's like, oh wait, no, stupid. They're the same franchise. You are the dumb.
Of course, like with any good Omnimech, there are some interesting alternate configurations which inform us about how the mech was frequently used in battle.
Hmm.
For example, the alternate configuration A of the Nova relied upon two ERPPCs split between the arms as primary damage dealers. Able to strike for two 15-point shots fairly consistently before heat becomes an issue made the Nova a dangerous 50-ton mech. It could hit way above its weight and had the agility necessary to avoid being pinned down by other mediums and lights.
Two anti-missile
A medium
systems?
pulse laser in the left torso
Really?
was the only other weapon, but interestingly, two anti-missile systems along with a ton of ammunition for them was added to further improve the mech's durability.
I don't know the Nova
While the
had
total overall
AMS
Alpha
and
Strike damage is
its
significantly
configurations.
lower than the primary configuration, the concentration of that damage along with the ability to pump it out consistently makes the difference. Personally, if I had to choose between the two, I think I'd go with the A configuration for most missions.
Then
If
again,
you're looking
a
for
lot of my
something
knowledge is
more
based off
flexible,
Mechwarrior
the
2, and
Nova
they didn't have
configuration
AMS.
B
to my
features
knowledge
an
in Mechwarrior
eclectic
2.
mixture of weapons, which could be quite fun. The primary weaponry consists of a large pulse laser in the left arm and an Ultra AC-5 autocannon in the right arm fed by 1 ton of ammunition.
Oh, you can't
At
you
short
can't do the
range,
cheat
an emotional
anymore.
support ER
in
small laser
Mechwarrior
was
2.
installed into the right torso,
You got ammo
and
that
a
can
pair of
explode.
standard machine guns were added to the left torso along with 1 ton of ammunition. While not terrible, the B configuration has trouble justifying its existence beyond perhaps a hunter of weaker battle mechs, tanks, and infantry. The possible Alpha Strike at point-blank range is just 29 if everything hits and you double fire that UAC-5. At least heat generation isn't an issue. I don't think I've ever used the B configuration in battle, as there seem to be much better options out there for most situations I can think of. If I had to give it a score, it would receive 2.5 shrugs. Moving on to the Configuration C, the star of the show was the left arm-mounted Gauss
got a-
rifle fed by just a single ton of
It's got a
ammunition.
Gauss rifle? Wait, it's
Backing
Gauss
it up in the
rifle. I
right
always call it
torso
just,
was a
I always call
small
it Gauss
pulse laser
rifle.
and a short-range missile 4 rack in the left torso, fed by a single ton of ammunition.
That's what the
Now, I
robot
did throw
ladies
some
would
shade
always
at
say
the
in the
Configuration B,
Mechwarrior
so
3050
to be
game
fair,
on
I
the
should
SNES.
probably pick on the C a little bit as well. I do not understand this build when the Configuration A exists. The Gauss rifle dominates the build, yet has only 8 shots, severely limiting the duration that Nova C can remain combat effective. Not even the fluff can justify the C's existence with a contrived explanation.
Oof.
The Nova Configuration D was the last of the 2870 originals, and it departs from any of the previous builds by embracing a fire support role. The right arm mounted long-range missile 20 rack was fed by 2 tons of ammunition, which were also stored in the arm. This might be a good point to remind people that the Clan Omnimex come with a built-in case, so the ammunition in the arm is actually a better plan than packing it into the side torso next to the XL engine.
Yeah, so that's also a big advantage of these these Omnimex in this era with Clan Tech compared to its Inner Sphere Battletech counterpart for the time. When you get an ammo explosion that is unprotected without what's called case, that's going to do a lot of damage to your internals and could actually cook off other ammo that can explode, and can usually ends with catastrophic events with your entire mech going up like a candle. The case technology was basically like a case of like cellular blow panels where ammo, if they were to explode, their force is directed out from certain ends of wherever there are built in internally. So it helps limit the spread of damage. I think case 1 keeps all damage only within a certain limb, so it can't spread to internally. So like, say if you had an ammo explosion in your arm, right, there's a chance that damage may actually transfer into your side torso, and then, God forbid it was even worse damage. It could even go to your center torso and completely destroy your mech. Case 1, I believe, limits it going from limb to limb, from torso to torso. Like, it keeps it isolated. And then I think case 2 essentially like has it to where I think you only suffer 1 damage from it or something like that, and then the rest is wasted. I don't remember exactly with case 2. I don't play very mechs that have case 2. But yeah, case 2 is like, give every ammo compartment case 2 protection, because damn, that's useful. Yeah, the Air Sphere didn't have access to that for a while, until they would eventually. And yeah. It's like having AC, right? Like, where I've been all my life without it.
On the other side of the mech, a left arm mounted LB5X autocannon was fed by 2 tons of ammunition, also stored along with the weapon. The range of the LB5X is actually longer than the LRMs, so the pairing works to add just a little bit more firepower and possibility for chasing criticals with those LB cluster munitions. Overall, I'm okay with the D configuration. If you had the need for a fire support mech and had a Nova laying around, it's perfectly functional. I'd prefer a 3rd ton of LRM ammunition, but that would require pulling either a ton of the LB5X ammo or rethinking the autocannon entirely. For the better part of the morning, he had been trading pot shots with a Hell's Horses Supernova, so named because it was, for all intents and purposes, a bigger and more powerful version of the Nova.
Oh
Its
yeah, I've
major
never used a
weaknesses
Supernova.
against its smaller cousin was speed. Ben's Nova was 60% faster, and he could move in, strike, and pull back with relative ease. The game was becoming wearisome though. Because his quarry outranged Ben with extended range large lasers against Ben's mediums, it was difficult for him to draw the Supernova anywhere it did not want to go. It wasn't until 3050 that another official configuration was ID'd. The Nova S embraced pulse laser technology with the installation of 6 medium pulse lasers evenly split between the arms. Able to lash out to 12 hexes at improved accuracy automatically makes this configuration a danger to any target that relies upon speed to survive. The addition of an active probe in the head along with an anti-missile system in the center torso further backs up this configuration's role as a hunter of light and small things. Finally, to add insult to injury, 4 standard machine guns were added to the mech, split between the left and right torsos. All were fed by a half-ton of ammunition on the left torso. The 14 double heat sinks do a good job of keeping the mech cool, even while firing all 6 medium pulse lasers on the run. It can only build up heat if firing while also jump jetting, and even then it's a minor issue. I'm a big fan of the Nova S, and I think it would be incredibly useful as support for heavier battle mechs in a star or as backup in a lighter star. In 3054, the configuration E of the Nova was a demonstration of how the Advanced Tactical Missile Launcher system could empower a mech to act as both fire support as well as a close-range powerhouse. For a mech like the Nova, which already had a reputation for being a generalist, the ATM was perfect.
I'm not even sure if I ever even used one of those.
In the case of the Nova E, the ATM-12 in the right arm was fed by 6 tons of ammunition. Depending
That's
on
a lot
what
of
ammunition was chosen, the Nova E could consistently offer
Or I should say the
long-range
weight of
fire
that's a
support for
lot.
longer than most battles last. With
6
a more
tons of
balanced
ammo?
approach,
Gosh,
the
damn.
Nova E could drain its extended range ammunition before closing in on a target and unleashing the high explosive rounds. In addition to the ATM-12, 3 ER medium lasers were added to the left arm for mid and short range firepower. I'm a fan of the Nova E configuration because it really leans into the generalist role as a mech that could be useful in a wide variety of situations. It's just powerful enough with the extended range missiles that ignoring it is foolhardy, but not so dedicated to that role that it can't punch back hard in a clinch. Now, it should come as no surprise that we would see a heavy laser configuration for a traditionally laser-focused Omnimech. The Nova H configuration was first spotted in 3059, and with great subtlety and finesse, they just crammed this thing with 10 medium-heavy lasers and 6 additional double heatsinks, and then went to lunch, I guess.
What?
The potential 100 damage alpha strike from all 10 medium-heavy lasers is eye-opening, though it comes at some significant caveats. The first is the incredibly short range of the laser, 9 hexes at the most, and a +1 modifier to accuracy. And of course, the heat generated in the process. A full alpha strike
I've never
generates
used a heavy
70
laser.
heat, which means if the 20 double heat sinks were all intact and working, the Nova H should end the round at 30 heat into the red. The magic number for an automatic shutdown.
Yeah.
It could be avoided on a +8 roll if you don't fire one of the lasers, but good luck resisting that temptation in the moment.
It's like he's
the
talking
H
to
is
me.
an odd duck configuration, and while I don't think I would ever field it personally, I know there are a lot of rabid heavy laser fans out there, so I won't talk smack about them. You win this round. Enjoy your Nova H.
I will.
Only a few missiles glanced off his Nova's armor as the mech's feet came down
Who's
in
this?
front of the nearest carrier. Bin opened fire with 6 pulse lasers and 4 machine guns. LRM carriers were designed to hide and fire, as they've been doing quite effectively just moments ago. Lightly armored and slow-moving, the vehicle had no chance against the full firepower of a Clan Nova. The carrier was literally torn to shreds, its crew scrambling to leap out of the vehicle's hatches before its ammunition exploded, which it did in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, that's no joke. LRM carriers have like paper thin armor.
In
They are easy to
3068,
take
the
out.
Nova
They go
F
up.
configuration
They go up like a
debuted with
firework.
the new
But man,
hyperassault Gauss
you don't want to
technology
face
on
those things
display.
when they're at range, man.
It looks a lot like
They're
the
just
Nova
showered
E,
death
just
at
with
you.
the ATM-12 replaced by a HAG-20 rifle.
Hag 20.
In practice, it's a similar
What's a Hag
effect,
20?
though some of the short-range punch is traded for more long-range impact. 18
These are-
shots
I think
for the
these are
Hags
probably
sit in
later
the Nova's
era-
arm, and the 14
later
double
era
heatsinks are
armaments
more than capable
that
of
I'm not
handling
used to
the
using,
rifles
'cause I
and
tend to
all
s- I
3
tend to
ER
stick,
medium
like,
lasers.
I tend to go no
It's
further
a
than
perfectly
the
functional build and can be quite powerful.
Civil
Just
War
watch
era
that 2 hex
for
minimum
Battletech.
range for the HAG-20.
I'm not sure if this
Next
was
up on the
developed in that.
timeline was the Nova U
timeline.
configuration, which definitely earned some points for creativity with its loadout. Starting with the big guns, this configuration carried 3 medium-heavy lasers in the right arm. Backing those up at extremely short range were 3 micro-pulse lasers in the left arm
Micro-pulse
and
lasers.
8,
Yeah,
yes,
I usually
8
don't make-
machine guns split between the left and right torso.
8 machine
as cool
guns?
as that is, this gets more interesting. The U config also carries an
That's
ECM suite in the head, a light active probe in the left torso, and
Okay.
2 1-ton liquid storage tanks split
All right.
between the torsos.
Okay, so here's the weird thing about machine guns in the universe. Machine guns can be pretty deadly if utilized right. um, in universe, but in tabletop, when you fire a machine gun, the range is super sad. Like not even anywhere close to realistically what a type of machine gun could fire at range IRL. We're working with tabletop rules here. So a machine gun can only go out to 3 hexes. A hex is 30 meters for Battletech, which means a machine gun on the tabletop can't go over 100 meters. That's crazy. And that's considered long range for a machine gun. Not only that, if it were to hit, it deals 1 point of armor damage. Just one. So if you're firing 8 of these, which, the ballistic weapons generate way less heat compared to energy and missile weapons. So firing 8 machine guns together, no problem. The only problem is you have to roll 8 separate times with each machine gun. That's crazy. You're probably not going to be hitting a whole lot, unless if you're right up against it to where you get like a +0 to your target number, you know. But what's interesting is that at 0.5 tons of ammo, I believe 1 ton ammo in the Battletech universe for a machine gun is 200 rounds. And that's not like, or I should say like 200 shots. That's not 200 rounds of like individual bullets or cannon fire that you can fire as a machine gun in Battletech. No, that's every round, every tabletop round. When you fire a machine gun, you fire 1 shot out of the 200 that are available from a 1 ton ammo. And if that ammo cooks off, good God, that's 200 points, almost 200 points of damage if you haven't fired it yet. That goes right through your torso, destroying your mech almost guaranteed. Machine guns are like so backwards to use in that universe that I understand people that have machine guns tend to dump a big portion of their ammo at the very beginning of the game just so that way that doesn't happen. It's crazy. Like it's it uh, it's machine guns, man. Yeah, yeah, it's so weird. I know there are people concerned about the new core rulebook basically redoing a lot of old traditional rules that Battletech has had for literally 4 decades at this point. I'm a little concerned with some of their changes too, in order to try and make the game run easier and smoother, and I dread saying it, reach a wider audience. Uh, but I think they did change the internal explosion for ammo and stuff like criticals when it comes to cascading damage. I think it's limited to like 20 internal damage or something like that, which is still pretty bad, right? Like not a whole lot of um, internal structure can resist like 20 points of like direct internal damage without other stuff happening. But at least it's not 200 anymore. So you know what? I'm okay with that particular change because seriously, why take a machine gun with 1 ton ammo and 200 shots? That's just like you're setting yourself up for death. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do any of the damage output that you would hope it would. It's just like it's crazy. I don't know. At least in the video games, shooting rapid fire machine guns, at least at least serves as at least has a purpose of ramping up possible internal criticals if the armor is exposed. I can understand that, but on tabletop, machine guns never seem like they're worth it. If you have successful tactics you've done in your tabletop Battletech game using machine guns, definitely let me know because, yeah, I hear machine guns in Battletech and there's not a lot of joy there.
This might be a tad mysterious if not for the inclusion of the spot welder unit in the right arm. The combination of the storage tanks and spot welder tells us this configuration was likely for use in low or zero-G environments,
A
where the jump
spot
jets could
welder.
use the additional fuel,
It's got
and the mech could
sword.
weld plating back together on spaceships. This mech cries out for some use in a Mechwarrior Destiny scenario.
That's what I was
Before
thinking.
we go, the U configuration also carries a sword in the left arm.
Speaking of which,
Possibly
Noel,
for
we gotta get
utilitarian
on the
reasons,
ball.
like hacking wrecked or bent structures and plating.
We got to get
but
Mechwarrior
a sword
Destiny
is a
going. I really want
sword,
to try
and
it.
who
I
knows
really
when
want to
we
try
might
that
need to
system.
whack something in mech shaped. Very
That's
cool.
so funny.
Obviously,
I'm not gonna
the
get.
Nova U is incredibly niche with its loadout.
I'm not gonna get the image out of my head now of being charged by a Nova with a sword that's bigger than it. That is what an image. Man, that's one of the real fun things I do like about Mechwarrior 5 is that when they introduced melee weaponry, they got real fun and creative with all sorts of melee weaponry that even the tabletop Battletech books, unless if they've added some additional source books that added more melee weaponry types besides just an axeman and a hatchet and like a katana. Like, come on, give these guys like a great sword and all sorts of other, give them like bear claws for like the Kodiak and a bunch of other real cool like melee weaponry for them to wield and go into battle with. Like, spice it up, in the tabletop. Mechwarrior 5's having all the fun with all these crazy looking melee weaponry.
But I like it anyway, and not just because of the 8 machine guns and the sword. One of the most notable mech warriors who piloted a Nova wasn't from Clan's House Horses, but actually a Jade Falcon. Diana Pride, the daughter of the legendary Aiden
Yeah,
Pride, became a bit of a legend on her own
Diana Pride.
right after becoming the first freebirth warrior to earn a Clan Jade Falcon blood name.
She I actually gosh, I left off of the Twilight Clan saga. I never got to finish the whole saga. I left off of her book when she was earning her blood name. So for those of you who don't know out there, the clans are weird. I love their tech, but they're weird. They went so alien with their societal norms and stuff like that that they basically became eugenic super soldiers that basically in their tough environment might equals right. So those are the strongest and the fittest survive and dictate everything, and those that are not are beneath them. They basically came up with a caste system, where warriors run everything, and then the lower castes are like the tech engineers, the merchants, the scientists, stuff like that, and they all work together to survive in this harsh environment. But the warriors call the shots, right? They're on the tippy top, and they're all from these vats of genetic legacies that the best soldiers, essentially the best warriors, have left to combine together and try to create more super soldiers that are even bigger and better than the previous generation. However, not all people born in clan space, in clan societies, are like that. Those that are called trueborns. Those that are born the good old natural way of, bam, are called freeborns, or derogatorily known as free births, as a slur. Those are just people that are, they're looked down as inferior by the trueborn. But the trueborn screwed up so badly at the Battle of Tukid that they have massive gaps, massive generational gaps, where their warrior cast of trueborns are all dead, and there's a crisis situation of now how are we supposed to run and defend with our militaries if we lost entire generations of trueborns. Well, for what's her name, Diana, right? I think it was Diana, Diana Pride, who is the freeborn daughter of Aiden Pride, who, if you know anything about Aiden Pride, definitely go check out a story. Very cool, unique story. Basically a trueborn who failed to become a warrior the way you're supposed to. Like they go through trials and stuff, and unfortunately, he kind of failed, and he ended up. I think he actually snuck off. I think he was gonna get put to a lower caste. He snuck off and then secretly joined a group of freeborn uh, warriors that are, freeborn warriors do exist in clans, but they tend to get the real shitty like defense missions and stuff of like just kind of securing the home front. And I think they were stuck in like a swamp biome. It was not great. But basically, he fights his way all the way up through the ranks as a disguised as a freeborn, and then eventually announces himself as actually a trueborn, and uh, he issues a challenge to fight over a blood name, which a lot of people were offended by because it's like you failed the OG way and now you went through the super sneaky way, not the not honorable way of acting like you're a freeborn, and now you demand respect and the ability to fight for a blood name. Blood names are basically like that's the super cool way of saying I matter as a trueborn and that my genetic legacy will influence the futures. So that's basically how it works for a trueborn. You have a first name, and you only have a first name until you earn a blood name, a last name, which is usually associated with your clan, in which your genetic legacy will get passed on. Those who do not get a trueborn, or those trueborns that do not get a blood name, have no last name, and when they die, that's it. They will be forgotten. Rough stuff. Anywho, he eventually gets his blood name and takes part and is really important in the Battle of Tukid for the Jade Falcon. But before then, he actually had relations with someone else, a lady. I don't remember her name, but she was also from like I believe she was in the same Sibco as Aiden. Well, she ends up getting pregnant and has a child who is, I believe it's, I'm pretty sure the name is Diana. I think he said the name was Diana. And kind of, along with her natural skill, because she's actually really skilled too, she also participated in the Battle of Tukia. So basically, with her skill, her surviving the Battle of Tukia, as well as her being a freeborn legacy of Aiden Pride himself, there just became a big push with certain members of Clan Smoke Jaguar to basically kind of break the stigma of not having freeborns basically be like the stalwart of like clan of like the clan cast. It's like, why are we having these we can't have these inferiors, you know, commanding the front lines and running things. They don't know how to do stuff. That's what the Trueborn are for. It's like, well, the Trueborn kind of got wiped out for generations, and this is what we can turn to. There's a lot of animosity to that idea, but Diana basically became the test bed of, can we rely on freeborns to essentially take up the mantle for the generations of Trueborns lost and keep the clan alive. And so that was her book that focused on that. I never got to finish it, but it sounds like she was able to succeed in getting a blood name. So good for her. I'll definitely need to go back and finish reading that book. So sorry for the history lesson.
In her final trial, Diana faced a skilled warrior named Leaf, who piloted his Black Lantern. They faced off against each other on Ironwind, deep within a cave complex with a variety of hydrothermal and petroleum geologic features. Each barrage she triggered, each stream of laser fire appeared to hit somewhere on the Black Lantern. Leaf's counterattack was effective enough, but time and position were working in Diana's favor. Her mech was advancing on the Black Lantern, forcing it backward through the sheer impetus of her attack. Alongside the Black Lantern, an especially high geyser of flame erupted, almost to elbow level with the mech. Behind him, a new waterfall came down, opened up by the impact of a PPC hit. The liquid gushing out was particularly dark, darker than Styx, where the oily liquid was diluted with underground streams of water. Though it was close, Diana won her fight and earned her blood name within her trusty Nova. Following her trial, Diana Pride was thrust into the conflict with Clan Steel Viper. She fought alongside the Falcon Guard and even earned a line in the Remembrance after defeating Steel Viper Khan Paragard Zalman, which stalled the Viper invasion of Clan Jade Falcon worlds.
Yeah, if you don't know what the Remembrances, that's a very revered piece of like oral history and tradition that's passed down from generation to generation from the beginning of the clans. So it's like a brief oral history, like or part oral history, part a little bit of myth making, if I remember correctly. That talks about the beginning of the clans and its destiny and all that type of stuff. So being mentioned in the Remembrance is pretty incredible. That's like getting included in the Declaration of Independence. It's kind of hardcore. So that's basically what happened.
Early 3070s, Diana Pride achieved the rank of Star Colonel, though her life was cut short following a Word of Blake attack on Ark Royal in 3073.
Frickin' Word of Blake, man, ruining everything, even the fiction.
Quickly, the two of them, with the Turkina Keshik and the first Falcon Striker cluster, headed there. As they approached, Martha's sensors told her that the fight had been devastating. A lone Nova stood protectively over a fallen Timberwolf, with what appeared to be an army of defeated Steel Vipers laying toppled and scattered all around the single standing mech. In the same year of Diana Pride's passing, clan leadership decided they would honor her memory by creating a production line for the Nova which would breathe new life into the antique battlemech design. Olivetti weaponry on Sudetan put in the effort, and soon the Nova was seen not just within the Falcon Tumen, but also the Hell's Horses, which never lost their love for the battlemech. In 3092, the Nova Configuration G provided a unique use of the available pod space, and by unique I mean frustratingly bad. The mech's primary weapons consisted of two medium improved heavy lasers put between the side torsos and a proto-mech AC-8 autocannon. At close range, 7 ER small lasers in the left arm offered a fun light show experience. Bring your own glow sticks. The
Proto-mech AC-8? Huh? I know Proto-mechs are weird. Proto-mechs during the, what was it? It was in the, was it 3058, I think? Right? It was during like Operation Bulldog, I think it was. Right? The invasion of the clan homeworlds from the by the Inner Sphere, where they were first introduced to these weird semi-mech things called protomechs. They're like a midpoint between small elemental warriors like Mr. Mechanical Frog here and battle mechs. They were like a little taller. They're like in between. You know what? We just reacted to that heavy gear video earlier. They're closer to like gear sizes, you know. They're kind of like an in between. They're much more maneuverable and a lot bigger than the smaller fries, but they're nowhere near as big as the a regular battle mech size. Now that would sound pretty cool as a midpoint, but the problem is a lot of the designs of the protomechs I think look pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, they look kind of awful. They're ones that designed to look like hawks or horses or just really weird looking stuff. Like, you know, you really see you really see the furry come out of the clans with their protomech designs. They just look weird. They could have made them look super cool. Instead, take a look at protomechs. You may feel differently, but man, I never liked the way protomechs look. Cool concept. Don't like the designs for them though.
AC-8 can only fire out to 10 hexes, and that's the longest range weapon you have, so if you're going with the config G, you're going to want to be sneaky and get close. All of the weapons are aided by a targeting computer, at least, located in the right torso. The config G clearly has a limited mission profile, but I can see how some might enjoy it for the ability to do a considerable amount of damage at very short range. The G would do well in an urban environment or rugged terrain where line of sight is limited. Just 2 years later, the Nova I configuration hit the scene with a more traditional loadout. The mech's primary weapon was an ERPPC in the right arm, which provided a tried-and-true punch. Backing it up at short range were 5 medium-improved lasers in the left arm. They could reach out to 9 hexes for 10 damage apiece, but for 7 heat generated and the possible explosion should they be struck during combat. The 15 additional double heat sinks help mitigate the heat generation, though a full alpha strike including the ERPPC would still leave the Nova at 12 plus into the red. It would slow you down the next turn and make another shot less accurate, but it's not unmanageable if you really need to lay down some damage right now rather than later. Following the Nova I configuration, there's a considerable wait for the next official one. In 3128, the Nova J config was spotted, which highlighted streak LRM technology with the installation of the LRM 15 version of it in the right arm, along with 2 tons of ammunition.
It's cool to hear that this
16 shots would
this
be
frame
plenty,
has survived
considering the
this
streak
long.
would only allow it to fire with the lock. In fact, I bet for all but the longest of battles, the Nova J config is likely not going to run out of ammunition before taking the field or itself being destroyed. In the left arm, an ERPPC was installed, which further boosted the Nova's ability to hammer targets at long range. It can even do so consistently, as the standard 14 double heat sinks can handle any heat generated except for the longest of jump jet flights while alpha striking. I'm fond of the Nova J, as it's a good way to lean into the fire support role without ending up considerably less effective quickly into the battle. Next in line is the Nova K configuration in 3134, which saw the mech's first official implementation of a rotary autocannon.
Rotary autocannons.
The rotary AC2 was added to the left arm, which promised a considerable rate of fire
Look at this
to an
guy.
impressive distance.
Look at this guy. I love that. That's great. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. That's awesome. I made a Lego Timberwolf when I was a kid. It couldn't stand up on its own because obviously the chicken leg variant of how mechs stand up are not the most conducive to supporting its weight, at least the way I had did it. So I put a little hidden support underneath it to hold the mech up. But yeah, man, I wonder if I can find an old picture of that thing. That was so cool, man. I was so proud of it.
Though the damage was somewhat limited due to the fact that it's still an AC2, I know there are some big fans of the rotary weapons out there. The RAC2 was balanced on the right arm by the installation of an ER large laser, which could match the max range of the autocannon while also not relying upon ammunition. At the mid and short range, the 2 ER medium lasers split between the side torsos provided some added punch. The 2 tons of RAC2 ammunition were plenty for the weapon, and the heat generation for the K configuration is minuscule. If you're fond of the rotary autocannons, this could be a decent option.
I never really used
In that
rotary
same year,
autocannons
the
in the
Nova L
tabletop.
configuration was spotted, which offered another new piece of technology not previously seen on the platform.
Yeah, plasma
The 2
cannons.
large improved heavy lasers were split between the arms and
I wonder how
offered
those
a
act.
tantalizing 16 damage per shot.
I should really do a
The new technology was found in
I
the
should
2
really try a
plasma
game.
cannons, also split between the arms.
I should really try a game in like the 3150 era, because the tech is crazy at that point. And I've had a friend told me that, you know, compared to like early eras of Battletech where games can take forever just because of the damage output is, you know, it takes a long time to incur damage and destroy mechs on the tabletop if you're not playing it fast. Damage output is way crazier in the later era and can go through mechs way faster, so games aren't as slow if you're not speeding through them pretty quickly with your rolls. Yeah, I always feel like I'm an old man hearing all this stuff. But like, back in my day, we didn't have these fancy plasma cannons, and it took 10 turns to take out a mech, but that's how we liked it. Yeah, I'm always surprised when I hear like a new weapon type. It's like, wait, this isn't in the fiction for decades. I just never got out of a certain era.
At the cost of generating 7 heat for the user, the plasma cannon spews out a plasmified round of plastic which splashes a target with intense heat. For heat-synced targets, that can add up to 2d6 additional heat that turn. Each of the Config L
Oh.
plasma cannons were fed by just a single ton of ammunition. The flaw in this configuration is found in the lack of additional heat sinks, with just 14 firing both improved heavy lasers while at a standstill sends the mech immediately 8+ into the red. The Mechwarrior who chooses this configuration is going to need to be savvy with managing the mech's heat in order to maximize damage output. Very briefly, the Nova X configuration was created in 3137 as a mixed Intersphere Clan Tech chassis, only due to the installation of a TS-EMP cannon into that left arm.
What the hell is a
For those
TSMP
unfamiliar,
cannon?
this ill-conceived weapon can potentially shut down a targeted mech based upon some dice rolling. Full disclosure, I am really not a fan of game elements that completely take away a player's agency. While it's fun to spew inferno fire or plasma onto a target, that target can usually still act in all but the most extreme circumstances.
Yeah.
Few things are less fun for a player than having to sit there and do nothing through an additional turn while you are being pummeled by an opponent.
Yeah, that's rough.
Okay, that's my TS-EMP rant over. The X configuration also carries 6 ER medium lasers
Didn't
in the
even
right
have to
arm,
play
which
it
is
to
reminiscent
experience
of the
that.
primary configuration's loadout from way back in the day. The 18 double heat sinks are fine, but as is often the case with Novas, heat management will be required to keep your cockpit from smelling like a locker room after the big game. In 3140, the Nova R configuration highlighted a couple of new technologies in a build that promised to run roughshod over infantry, light vehicles, and possibly even that neighbor who needs to run his very loud air compressor for hours every morning.
I
Sorry,
know that
what was
neighbor.
I talking about? Oh yes, the R configuration. The mech's primary weapons
Sound
were
a little
4
personal there,
mediumly
eh?
engineered lasers placed into the right arm, which offered 6 damage out to 9 hexes for 6 heat. In the left arm, 6 anti-personnel Gauss rifles were installed along with 2 tons of ammunition. This offered up the fun thought of laying waste to platoons of soldiers and light vehicles which might get in the Nova's way.
Every 7
The last new
a.m. he's
element for
running
the
that
R
damn air
config was
compressor.
the addition of a supercharger to the center torso, which could push the Nova's movement profile up to 5-10-5 when needed.
Oh,
Overall, the R configuration is an interesting, though obviously niche, loadout. For a specific infiltration mission where a command tent needed to be cleared, this could be a good pick. Finally, our last official Nova configuration is the Nova T, which shows up in our timeline in 3142.
12 chem lasers.
Unfortunately, it's not one of those Dawn of the Oakland variants which wows the crowd. Its weaponry consists of 12 medium chemical lasers split evenly between the left and right arms. The benefit of the chemical lasers is their low heat, just 2 per laser. Unfortunately, they also require ammunition, which the T configuration has just 4 tons. That's 120 shots split between 12 lasers.
Yeah, that's
For
only...
those of you who, like me, took public school math classes, that's just 10 shots
That's
per
just
laser.
10 shots. Oh,
So we're
God.
left with what is possibly doing up to 60 damage 10 times before the T configuration needs to flee the battlefield to reload.
Yeah, that's not great.
While I get what they were going for with this, it fails to meet the standards set by the Nova primary configuration.
Yeah, I'll stick with
It's
the
just
prime.
not a Nova I would take into a fight when there are so many better options out there.
Maybe
across the
maybe have like
timeline.
a pair of medium
Now, I don't
lasers
think
as
my out of
a
control
backup.
ego and wildly
if you
inflated
run out of,
sense of self-importance would
ammo?
let this moment go without an attempt at a totally non-canon and unofficial Mechfrog configuration.
Oh, what do you got here?
Behold the Nova 1MF in all of its glory.
All right, so we got 1 large pulse laser in the right arm, 2 ER medium lasers in the left and right torso. We have a micro pulse laser in the left torso, an SRM-6 in the left arm, with 1 ton ammo in the left arm. We have a laser AMS in the head, and 3 double heat sinks. All right, explain this configuration and why I should use a Magic Frogman.
Sorry, no plasma this time. My goal for the 1MF was to create an updated general purpose Nova that could do well in the Oakland era. The primary weapon is the tried and true large pulse laser located in the right arm. Backing it up in the mid-range were a couple of ER medium lasers split between the side torsos. At short and extremely short range, an SRM rack in the left arm and a micro pulse laser offer a warm welcome on those cold winter evenings. The last addition was a supercharger to the center torso to help get the Nova where it needs to be and when it needs to be there. The added agility is a nice bonus for what is a pretty standard design. It may not be flashy or put up insane numbers, but I'd happily take the 1MF most of the time as a general purpose 50-ton Omnimech. Now, they say that the highest form of flattery is imitation, so it's no surprise to me that the Nova was the subject of considerable efforts by others to create their own versions of the mech.
Yeah.
The wreckage on Luthien was still warm when scientists and engineers from the Draconis Combine got to work trying to sort out clan technology.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Specifically the Omni-Mech tech, which had become infamous in the previous months of the invasion. One of the products of this extensive effort was the BHKU-0 Black Hawk KU, named after the Inner Sphere designation for the Nova. This 60-ton Inner Sphere Omni-Mech looked very much like its inspiration, like see you in a courtroom with all of your lawyers similar. Though it was 10 tons heavier than the Nova, the Black Hawk...
Yeah, Battletech's never had that issue come up. Man. Go pound rocks, Harmony Gold. Alright, back to the video.
KU could only boast of 17 tons of pod space, just one more than its inspiration. Though it was more heavily armored and could match the Nova's standard cooling and movement profile, it was obvious that the limitations of this inner sphere technology would continue to plague the design.
Yeah.
Another flattering imitator of the Nova was Callan Industries' Penetrator. It weighed in at 75 tons and featured an all-energy weapon loadout. Though slower than the Nova, it did have jump jets and could at least partially fill in that generalist role for inner sphere forces that fielded it.
Yeah, the Penetrator is also another mech
where
we'll definitely check out on his channel, because he did a video of it a couple weeks ago. I have my opinions on the Penetrator. It has nothing to do with about its efficiency or armor loadout, but as you will see from old school 1980s art I will present, how the hell does that thing even stand? How does that even walk? It makes no mechanical sense whatsoever. The new Penetrator artwork looks cool, like it makes sense, but the old artwork, it's like that thing's gonna buckle in its own weight. How's that thing? Okay, anyway, this is still about the Nova.
And House Horses sought to recapture lightning in a bottle with the creation of the Blackhawk, a simplified non-Omni-Mech version of the classic design. Though this mech could get its own video someday, it's worth noting the Blackhawk was given a blended missile and energy weapon design rather than trying to mimic the primary config's all-laser loadout. Mechwarriors of the Inner Sphere are likely to see more of this design, as it apparently was produced by Clan Diamond Shark, later Sea Fox, who were willing to sell it to anyone without restrictions. Looking at the Nova, I think the general purpose mission is part of its appeal and success, both in the lore and on the tabletop.
Still so weird seeing a Nova being able to torso twist.
Configurations, and the frame itself is flexible for a large number of homebrew builds. The hulking design is more alien than man, and I appreciate that as a change of pace from so many man-in-armor style battle mechs that are out there. While it is rarely mentioned before mechs like the Stormcrow or Shadowcat, the Nova is what we in the education sector call a quality producer. It does the work and gets stuff done.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Nova configuration that has served you well in the past?
Oh yeah, I've been gushing about for the past 10 minutes.
Let me know in the comments and we'll keep this conversation going. Thank you as always for coming out today as we discuss the Nova in all of its glory. I'd like to also thank Mini Frog for volunteering and doing his first voice acting in one of the novel quotes. He did an amazing job and put in the effort to make sure he did the text justice. If you haven't already, hitting that like and subscribe button will make sure that YouTube algorithm is happy, and as a result, you're much more likely to see my nonsense in the future. Going the extra step and becoming a channel member or supporting on Ko-fi will go a long way to making sure I can keep this venture going. I really appreciate it and the opportunity to do my part to support the Battletech community. With that said, have a great week. Please keep being positive and go out and make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.
Hey, thank you, Mechanical Frog, for that great lecture. One of my favorite battle mechs ever. And like he said there, definitely check out his video. Got a link for it below. Like, comment, and subscribe on his channel, and feel free to like, comment, and maybe subscribe to this channel here. Definitely getting back into some more fun reactions, as well as RPG session playthroughs, teaching RPGs, and other fun video game streams. Thank you for joining us here on the dance floor, and I hope to see you again in the near future. Take care, everyone.